Dr. Manhattan, the man turned god from Watchmen. Richard Nixon, the moon god from the monument Mythos. God is American, and so is our puny faith in them. I am Destiny Man, and it is our job to find out who would win in a versus show. Born in 1929 in Germany, Jonathan Osterman had it always unusual, for the better or worse. His father, Joseph Osterman, taught him about his admired profession, the construction of clocks, all the ins and outs. Years later, the Osterman family had to flee from Germany due to the rise of the Third Reich, since John's mother was Jewish. Unfortunately, in their act of escape, John's mother died, which made the JoJos immigrate America alone. While John was still studying on clocks, another terrifying incident happened. The United States dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. With that, Joseph realized reality and thus confronted his son with the fact that the profession he admired all this time is frankly outdated. He urged him on extreme but seemingly necessary fashion to pursue studying something far more useful for the modern world: atomic science. That made Osterman attend Princeton University, where he graduated after 10 years with a PhD in atomic physics in 1958. During that, he even watched Einstein in a lecture. He later moved to a research base at Gila Flats, where experiments were being performed concerning the intrinsic field of physical objects, which, if tampered with, resulted in their disintegration. There, John also found a good friend in Wally Weaver and his future lover, Janie Slater. For John, life seemed to go completely upwards. Until one fateful day when one little act changed everything. When John fetched the clock he repaired for his girlfriend from his lab coat, which was inside the intrinsic field experiment test chamber, the door closed automatically as a safety feature. Unable to open the door or override the countdown, John's colleagues only could watch how John got his intrinsic field removed, and thus being completely vaporized from physical existence. He was declared dead, and John was gone. Until the unbelievable happened. Somehow very weird things were happening at the research base, as if the base was haunted. A strange, floating nervous system with brain and eyes appeared. Just imagine you go to the bathroom and wash your hands, then suddenly you see this in the mirror. Then a circulatory system appeared, and then a screaming, partially muscled skeleton. Neat. But eventually, when a whistling sound was heard, a tall, hairless, nude, blue-skinned figure in an ultraviolet light that caused sunburn to those present appeared. The birth of the Ubermensch, and its name was John Osterman. So how the hell is that possible, you might ask? Well, John's consciousness has survived as an electromagnetic pattern. It had to, since his entire physical form got atomized. It learned to control the particles and use them to reform himself. Because that's very reasonable. Well, that probably makes your mind baffle, but completely believe it once you see what John's capable of now. Osterman was now able to perceive reality on an atomic and even subatomic level. He can manipulate reality to a seemingly unrealistic degree. Naturally, powers like these made him easily the most powerful being on the planet. For the world, a new age dawned. And of course, you can imagine that the United States government was very glad to have the Superman on their side, though the means by which his loyalty is secured have never fully been revealed. Thus, Jonathan obtained an identity which is a reference to the project that is hoped to defeat all of America's enemies, Dr. Manhattan. With the Ubermensch in their team, America frightened the bejesus out of the Soviets, and when DM was sent to Vietnam, he won the war almost single-handedly, all without donning more than a pair of very brief briefs. Well, he has manners. I mean, imagine you die, and the last thing you see in the sky is a gigantic... Ouch! Anyway, when the year hit 1966, Blueberry Man joined a group of vigilantes known as Watchmen. Well, in the comics their name was actually Crime Busters. Like Ghostbusters, but it's crime they chase. Also, he joined the team because of his public front as a superhero, since the mere aid of morals is a bit irrelevant, don't you think? And his team contained the smartest man of the world, which isn't Einstein, a new girlfriend for John, and one of my favorite sociopaths in comics.
Excuse me, have to visit men's room.
Well, the superhero team just happens to have the villain, Ozymandias. His plan is to save billions in the cost of millions by simulating an alien attack which should unite all of humanity, which, on second thought, seems kinda plausible, but I won't be going into that. Obviously, the gods seem to be one of the biggest obstacles. So Ozymandias made the public believe his radiation is cancer-causing, which made DM leave Earth and travel to the world we might start occupying in 2029. Though to true love reasons involving girlfriend number 2, he returned to Earth and seemingly gained some bit of humanity back by aiding to beat Ozymandias' plan. Or, by just aiding Ozymandias' plan instead, as it is objectively the logical conclusion, as he says. The whole team agreed on that, in fact, well, except of course the Wolverine, Rorschach, who Manhattan had waved goodbye, like, literally, he's dead. I'm sad now. Furthermore, the Doctor left this planet once again to create his own humanity in another galaxy. And throughout his cosmic journey, he eventually just happens to set foot in the DC universe. Surprise! Where he thought to be normal, despite his powers. However, even in a world full of cosmos-shaking characters, John quickly had to realize that he still isn't rid of his divine recognition. But given of what he's capable of, even for DC it shouldn't be a surprise. Evidently, his powers do base on quantum mechanics, as he controls the 4 fundamental forces to God knows what degree. That makes him essentially the Justice League in one person, as he has practically almost any ability you could think of, such as MFTL speeds, immeasurable strength, size alteration, dimensional travel, elemental control, intangibility, energy projection, molecular reconstruction, disintegration, magic, telepathy, time travel, teleportation by moving the universe instead of himself. Interesting. Precognition, as in he can see the future millennia ahead, basically see future, past and present simultaneously, and basically anything else, really. With the last mentioned power, Manhattan unfortunately, however, foresees an arms race of superpowers that should result in a new meta-human world war. So, to avoid that, he did crazy shit, like, really. He orchestrated a Flashpoint event, which made Barry merge DC with Vertigo and Wildstorm Comics to reboot the DC universe. It's not Barry, but Manhattan who's responsible for the retcon known as the New 52. What? Trapping some Flashes including Wally West into the Speed Force, sure, he did that, but also rather some polite deeds too, like making Bruce Wayne meet his father from an alternate timeline and saving Superman's father from the destruction of Krypton. All of that so that some of the greatest heroes there would stop their jobs. But time would know better. Manhattan was also able to kill Eobard Thawne, kind of, but still, Barry Allen's constantly been showing to run at incalculable speeds, and Eobard's supposedly faster than that. He also easily disintegrated Pandora, who defeated the 7 deadly sins, not them, and they are powerful enough to destroy the multiverse. Even the Omniverse wrecking Mr. Mix whatever is kinda afraid of him, so it shouldn't be in any way surprising to some that he walked right through nearly the entire Justice League. I mean, taking a lantern ring from its user just out of curiosity is funny, but revealing magic to be scraps of creation when being attacked by the likes of Etrigan, Zatanna and Constantine at the same time is even more bullshit. Although most JL members were powerless, DM still saw a confrontation with him and the actual Superman, where the outcome he could not tell, as he only could see blackness in the future. So either Superman destroys him, or Manhattan destroys everything. For John, Superman was different, as he referred to him to be the most hopeful out of all. So, out of cold curiosity, Manhattan kinda ruined Clark Kent's life, including killing his non-biological parents. Like, what the fuck? When John finally met Clark, Manhattan unironically didn't predict what was about to come. Superman, despite all his anger and frustration, prioritized heroism instead of revenge. That made Manhattan finally care for life, instead of just being a puppet that's able to see the strings. Thus, Manhattan acted and only had 2 worlds left before ending the entire metaverse. Seeming irrational toward his realization, but don't forget that behind every end is always waiting a new beginning. Certainly this was also the case here, as the god fixed his ways, including the removal of the threat known as nuclear destruction and the raise of a certain Kryptonian child. In the end, Manhattan sacrificed himself for this world and that child so that the planet has a protector who will receive love and return it.
And so, I was wrong. And dry your eyes. And let's go home.
Born in 1913 in California, Richard Milhouse Nixon had it hard due to his family's poverty. Nonetheless, he's told his mother once, and I quote, "I would like to become a lawyer, an honest lawyer, who can't be bought by the crooks." Like most others, he attended in high school, where he already put to show his gift in debating, and graduated. However, poverty wasn't the only awfulness Nixon had to cope with, as his older brother he admired so much died from tuberculosis. Certainly, that has devastated him, yet he still didn't hold loose of his words, and has attended at Whittier College and Duke University, where he graduated brilliantly. Now he can practice law. In 1940, he even married his wife, with whom he had 2 children. But World War II was around the corner, so Nixon served as a Navy lieutenant, commander in the Pacific. Upon leaving the service, he was elected to Congress from his California district. 2 years later, General Eisenhower selected Nixon to be his running mate. In 1960, it was finally time. He ran for president against Kennedy, though Nixon's outlook wasn't too inspiring. Despite his defeat against Kennedy, he won in 1968 against Humphrey, and won in the next election as well, in a landslide. However, there was the famous Watergate scandal, which made him resign from office only 2 years later, and he died in 1994. The end.
May God's grace be with you in all the days ahead.
But what if not? What if things went out differently? What if Nixon never became president in the first place? What if he didn't run for president against Humphrey, but unsuccessfully against the actor James Dean? And what if Nixon hasn't been sent to his maker, but became him? Well, in our infinite multiverses, somewhere certainly there's a reality. So buckle up, late bees and germs. This one's monumental. Well, before the election, Dean had other plans, and has invited Nixon to a race at a track instead. Not gonna lie, that's purely based. And that made Nixon be friends with Dean. Even after Dean's victory, Dean and Nixon remained friends and kept the race tradition. Even after, the Great Siren Disaster, where population of America were rendered deaf, and the eventual rising of Mace has gotten to the leading company in technology. Yes, even then they remained close. See, in the Deanverse, that's what it's called, most American monuments are hiding something. Whether it's living statues, special trees, or a conscious organism like the island of Alcatraz, which in 2020 had completely mimicked the entirety of the United States on a subatomic level, including people, though their close friendships seem to be decayed after the Great Division, an event caused by 2 entities made up of infinite power, which set the Deanverse into its destructions at the hand of a planet-sized serpent that is George Washington. Take that, Araki! No longer you're the king of what the fuckness. The horned serpent merged the entire universe with Wonderland, which is a timeless dimension filled with an infinite amount of special trees that are capable of sending people to alternate realities. You see where this is going. Now, that Alcatraz entity, in order to survive, turned into Nixon. And so the Alcatraz matter endured the explosion, until the Great Division occurred, and throughout that became one with the Horned Serpent and gained the powers of the special trees. Then Nixon was sent into another reality where he landed on the moon. Trying to see if he can fit in this world, he tested that humanity via 3 extensions of himself he created to see how welcomed superhumans are. These are the Sun, the Knight, and the Queen. As these are parts of Nixon, anything they can do, Nixon could do as well, thus making Nixon's abilities in general seemingly, ridiculous. Obviously, he possesses superhuman strength, speed, durability, levitation, telepathy, telekinesis, size alteration, reality hopping, etc. But then there is stuff that is, I don't know how to put it. He can make you non-existent, has an immunity to fate, and possesses an all-knowing wisdom. I see. Anyway, Nixon's extensions encountered humanity in different ways. The last son of Alcatraz was raised as a baby by human parents. He lived a simple life. His only desire was to do good. That all changed when he crashed into James Dean on the road, fainted, had a heavenly dream, and woke up with powers.
He was born much taller.
Like your average 1950s hangover in Hollywood. The last son used his powers for what he viewed as right, interfering in global conflicts, helping those in need without necessarily supporting one side. This angered the bitchy US government, and when returning to his fortress in Alaska after doing the same in the Korean War, he was nuked, lost an eye, and was put unconscious long enough for the government to plant a Lunarian eye that was able to transform and brainwash him into believing he was Jesus Christ. No, really, Jesus Christ. And use him to forcefully win the Vietnam War. You know, I'm not surprised. That's hangovers with me every time. Eventually, he broke free from his brainwashing and hid in Alaska, where he turned himself into his childhood home to no longer be involved with humanity. But something else did. Entering the Queen of the Lunarian. She's the ruler of the Lunarian civilization on the moon. She tried making peace with humanity during the Apollo 11 mission. But, guess she couldn't have a good shot. Now furious and driven by revenge, the Queen set her eyes on the last son. By this point, he wanted nothing but to be left alone. In response to this, the Lunarians forcefully turned him into the Crescent King and used his power mixed with their technology to slowly destroy Earth's languages by performing electric surgery through their ships and be able to indoctrinate humanity into her kingdom. But there was still one problem left. The D-Day Day Night helped save hundreds of lives of soldiers during the Normandy landings, after which he took an explosion that broke his helmet, which was the Horned Serpent skull, and disappeared for the following decades until the Lunarian invasion. The Lois Lane counterpart of this world broadcasted the last son's backstory through radio before language was completely destroyed, in the hope that the last son would break free from their brainwashing once again. But instead, the knight threw her off the fucking Chrysler building, went insane trying to convince himself that she was alive in a statue, ripped his face apart, putting on her memorable statue's head, and discovered that he was made of Alcatraz matter, like my blood is made of Ritalin. Slowly turning him more into mindless Alcatraz matter, making him lose all of his senses. So, when the Queen tried recruiting him, the knight did not care and combusted into Alcatraz matter that destroyed every single Lunarian and restored human languages after 9 months. After countless torture, betrayal, pain, and brainwashing without anybody to follow, the Crescent King can do nothing but to cry, and eventually destroy the world just as the Horned Serpent did on his own. Nixon had been aware of what his extensions were becoming, and with the increasing threat of the Crescent King's power, had no other option but to end the cycle of pain once and for all, thus fictionalizing the entire reality, erasing the entire past of his reality and turning everything into a comic book, including himself. What an unexpected ending, but maybe the necessary one. Perhaps nothing is indeed the best for everything.
Their sacrifice will make me realize that I can never risk stepping foot on Earth either.
Alright, the results are in. Let's put an end to this debate and reality once and for all. It's time for a versus show!
Destroy you, Dr. Manhattan.
Interesting. Like me, you have the power to create life. How much more? Your toys are indeed interesting. Show me your Just use the show.
I cannot fight you on here any longer. I'll take you to another reality where time is no problem.
Yeah, I took a pill, but not a billion. This fight was incredibly weird, as it was surprisingly clear-cut. Nixon's fate resistance certainly would prevent Manhattan from foreseeing his future, but his level of power just pales in comparison. Nixon may have erased his entire timeline, meanwhile affecting multiple other universes as well. But Manhattan's power even made Mr. McZiplik shit his pants or diapers. A being so powerful, it destroyed the entire DC Omniverse, a collection of infinite multiverses.
But what about the Crescent King's conceptual region?
While the Crescent King might always live on in your memory and could come back from you, it's a lot of stretching to do. As even if you were to take the House of the Ocean as fully canon, something like that wouldn't work on someone who is just higher dimensional. Same goes for the two beings with infinite power who Nixon upscales to. The blue Manhattan Edge, Nixon couldn't keep up with. The winner is Dr. Manhattan.
Don't click our hindrance, you know exactly why. Of course, like this episode, subscribe to this shitty channel, and check all the linked stuff in Discord, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, that's it, so see ya, suckers!